Hello, everyone. It's Asia. I still have not gotten a hang of doing introductions. I don't know what they'll look like. I don't know if I'll have a special one, but hi, how are you? I'm here because I wanted to share my many thoughts and opinions on A24's new movie, Heretic. I will be sure to give a verbal spoiler alert when the time comes, but you can also look down at the timestamps below and skip around if you want to avoid spoilers. Also, stay tuned till the end where I do a review of a candle that was released by A24 inspired by the film. I was able to get my hands on it and I'm really excited to smell it. I'll do an unboxing here, but yeah, stay tuned. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. The plot of this movie revolves around two female missionaries played by Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East. Sister Barnes is played by Sophie Thatcher, and Sister Paxton is played by Chloe East. They end up knocking on the door and entering the home of a man named Mr. Reed, who is played by Hugh Grant. And the longer they spend time in his home, the more they sense deception is going on. And the rest of the film, we get to witness how they choose to navigate these waters and see their beliefs being put to the test in real time. So, going into this movie, I didn't do a lot of research. I feel like sometimes filmmakers can over explain their work, and I want to be able to identify any Easter eggs, any big plot points or themes by myself. So, I tried to limit the amount of research I did beforehand. However, just from the trailers, it was unavoidable because it's a huge part of the film. I was able to recognize that Mormonism was going to be the center of this movie. Religious iconography by no means is uncommon in the horror genre, but it is not common that we see Mormonism focused on in films like this. Typically, Mormons are portrayed as very cartoonish caricatures, and we see them practice their beliefs in very extreme ways, whether it's for comedic effect or to bring home this horrific kind of plot line or storyline. The film is directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. They aren't, nor were they ever, members of the LDS Church, but during their film career, they befriended people who were Mormon and got to learn a little bit about the religion that way. So that contributed to their idea of putting Mormonism at the center of this film. But they also made a point to mention that Mormonism is a relatively young and new religion, having originated, I don't know the specific number, but not too long ago relative to the other major religions that have been studied. And so, for that reason, they thought it would be really interesting to use as a sort of launching pad for this beast of a film. So after I finished the film and as I was exiting the theater, I sat in my car and I was kind of thinking, okay, what is my takeaway from this movie? What do I think at its core this movie was about? And my answer to that is testing one's belief system. I mentioned before that Mormonism was simply a launching pad for a much bigger idea that this movie was focused on, and I stand by that. The Mormon religion and its lack of representation was used to have a larger conversation about where beliefs come from, how those beliefs are tested, and if you even test those beliefs. And we see it right away with the two sisters. Sister Barnes was not born into the church, but she entered the church due to really traumatic circumstances. And then Sister Paxton was born into the church. So you see different relationships with their belief system and how they ended up arriving to taking on Mormonism as their religion. And then we have Mr. Reed, who is very interested in religion from a very scholarly standpoint. He actually reminds me of like that one history slash science teacher you had in grade school, and nobody really knew about his personal life. So people would come up with conspiracy theories and spread rumors about him. And anytime he mentioned something during class, like, oh, my wife and I, the students would be like, he has a wife. Like, he had that kind of energy where he was super, super smart and you could tell he knew his stuff, but he was also very mysterious in a way that was almost kind of creepy. And so, because Mr. Reed is so invested in religion and has a wealth of knowledge surrounding religion, he feels that there is a lack of critical thinking skills when it comes to those who are practicing different religions. So, therefore, throughout the movie, he decides to test his subjects, which are the two missionaries, and put their beliefs to the test. So, because Mr. Reed is so invested in religion and knows so much about so many different religions, it's clear that he's come to the conclusion that those who practice different religions tend to lack critical thinking skills. And therefore, once he stumbles upon the two missionaries, he decides to test them and forces them to put their beliefs to the ultimate test. And how he does so is very, very intense. He uses games as a metaphor for religion, not only because both games and religion have been repackaged and commodified over the years, but much like a board game with religion, you have to think critically about the things that are put in front of you in order to understand what's happening as a whole. So if I'm playing checkers and somebody moves their checker piece, I need to consider all possibilities as to why that is. I need to consider if there is a strategy, what they are thinking about doing, and when I move my checker piece, I need to consider the implications of what might happen with that. And that's the type of logic that Mr. Reed tries to push these girls to have and apply it to their religion. So I could be playing the checker game and just see them moving the piece as simply moving the piece and not think anything of it. Or I can think critically and have an engaging sort of back and forth and a good game with the person I'm playing with, my opponent. And so that's the type of kind of thinking and application that Mr. Reed encourages and is pushing the girls to have. Okay, I can't wait any longer. I need to talk about the details, so we're heading into spoiler territory. As I was watching the movie, one of my favorite aspects was coming to the slow realization that Mr. Reed isn't as obsessed with religion as he is with fallaciousness. So when he's engaging with these debates and discussions with the girls, he's not trying to get them to believe that their beliefs are wrong, but rather he's trying to get them to recognize how the certainty of their beliefs measure up to the huge potential consequences of converting somebody to believe what they believe. And I feel like there is this undertone of, you're going to come into my home and you're going to preach this gospel, but do you actually really believe what you're talking about? And I think ultimately this is why he ended up killing Sister Barnes, because she had been very, very firm in her beliefs throughout the movie. Yes, there were times where she was shaken and disturbed because Mr. Reed is crazy and he was doing some really awful things, but she was very, very sure of herself, and therefore having her be the subject of his game was not interesting and didn't make any sense, because there was no point in engaging in a discussion, because there was no discussion. She knows what she believes. She's able to justify it very well. End of story. However, with Sister Paxton, she, while still having strong beliefs, is a little bit more shaken and uncertain, at least when it comes to justifying and explaining them. So this is very clear when Mr. Reed gives them an option of which door to choose, and there's the door of belief and disbelief, and Sister Paxton chooses the door of disbelief solely because she thinks that that's what Mr. Reed wants. She has this understanding of, okay, he's trying to get us to concede and take on his viewpoint and his worldview. So therefore, let's take this door and appease him. I really do believe it would have been a different movie if Sister Barnes was alive the whole time and included during the entire film, just because she was so quick on her feet and she was solving things and being able to navigate things so fast. So I think it was a really, really smart choice to eliminate her from the plot for many reasons, not just for exposition, but for the sake of logic and keeping it consistent with Mr. Reed's motivations. At the end of the day, Mr. Reed wants his subjects to question. He wants people who practice religion to question. And Sister Barnes didn't have anything to question. Her faith was not shaken, but Sister Paxton's was. There is the key to the bike lock that was put into Sister Paxton's pocket. And they speak to this a little bit in the film, but as soon as Sister Barnes died, I was like, oh, he put the key in Sister Paxton's pocket because he knew that he was going to kill Sister Barnes. Like, as soon as they came into the house and he was able to pick up on her wit, he was like, okay, she needs to go, and switch the keys. Another thing that I noticed, and this is a theory of mine, it's going to get very, very messy and it might be hard to follow, but just try to stay with me, okay? So, when Mr. Reed and the missionaries first meet, they ask if there's a woman in the house because that's the only way they can enter. And he says, yes, my wife is in the other room baking blueberry pie. He invites them in, they sit down on the couch, and he asks them, can you guess what kind of pie she's making by the smell? And they say, blueberry pie. And it's very sweet, but a few scenes later, they notice that there is a scented candle that is blueberry scented, and that's where the smell is coming from. And so it's implied that that was his trick, that he was using the candle as a ruse to get them to believe something that was actually not happening. He told the girls that a pie was being baked in another room. It smelled like a pie was baking, therefore they believed it. They didn't think to question anything or go and investigate. So at first, I thought that was the single trick. Very impressive. We're moving on. But later on in the film, when the two girls are in the basement, a fake prophet enters and she's holding a blueberry pie. And so when I watched that, I was like, wait a minute, so there was a blueberry pie this whole time. So that got me thinking. I think it was a trick on top of a trick. So the first trick, as explained, was them smelling the candle and thinking that it was an actual pie. The second trick was them seeing the candle and then thinking it was the candle. So he tricks them again. If you remember, when he's showing them the belief and disbelief door, he asks them, do you think my wife is on the other side of this door baking blueberry pie? He never confirms, and they never give a clear answer. So I genuinely am led to believe maybe she didn't bake the pie herself, but my theory is that that fake prophet was his wife, whether it was his literal wife or she was playing his wife as a character in his little game. But that's how I interpreted that sequence of events. And then with all the women who were locked in cages that we see later on in the film, maybe those were his wives. But that's my theory. I need to see it again and flesh it out a little bit, and then maybe I'll make a TikTok about it. There is so much more I want to talk about. I want to talk about the contraceptive in Sister Barnes' arm. I want to talk about the butterfly at the end of the movie. But for the sake of getting this video out in a timely manner, I'm going to stop it here. But if you have any contributions to the conversation and want to chat in the comments down below, please do so, because the blueberry candle was such a central plot point for this movie. They decided to release a blueberry candle in partnership with the candle company Joya. A24 has a whole other line of candles that they also made with Joya, and those scents are inspired by different genres. And it was really sweet because I saw one of the directors post on their Instagram story. I think it was Scott. They were like, oh my gosh, we wrote the script next to a lit A24 candle, and now we have an A24 candle of our own. So I thought that was really sweet. The candle retails for $40. I have a triple A24 membership, so it ended up being $36 retail. Once I paid for shipping, my total was $46.14. I was really impressed by the scents and the notes of this candle. Just for like the gag of it all, I would have been fine if this was just 100% beeswax, no scent, and it just had really nice packaging, because I just liked what it stood for and what it looked like. But they actually took the time to make it smell good, and I'm very excited to see if it smells like a blueberry pie. The top notes are blueberry, plum, and pineapple. The heart is raspberry blossom and coconut milk. The dry down is vanilla, caramel, tonka bean, and sweet musk. I love a tonka bean scent. Okay, let's open her up. Oh, I can already smell it a little bit. Oh my goodness. Can you see? Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. So, right off the bat, the replication of the one in the movie is spot on. The label is already kind of peeling, it's kind of hard to see. So, I don't love that because I just got it. But hopefully, it'll be fine. It'll stay on. Okay, I'm going to give it a huge whiff, and it smells absolutely delicious. The blueberry is so strong, but you also have these undertones of sweetness that really kind of wrap it up, so you don't have like a just a straight strong fruity blueberry smell. It has a little bit more of an inviting feel with those sweeter notes. I love it. Y'all, well, that is it for my video. Same way I haven't gotten a hang of intros, I haven't gotten a hang of outros either. But let me know your thoughts on the movie. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Why? Who'd you see it with? Give me all the details, and I'll see you next time.